Welcome to Course to Cash Flow, a podcast for coaches and service providers who want to reclaim their time and create consistent paydays using courses. I'm your host, Kenya Halliburton, and course choreographer, and I'm here with the lovely Linda Barutha. Welcome, Linda.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi. So let me just do a little bit of a background and overview because today we are talking about how to use the power of SEO and Pinterest to get your lead generation on autopilot. And I'm so excited to talk about this because lead generation and audience building is one of those kind of missing links to course creation that I feel doesn't get discussed enough. And what I love most about today's conversation is that you are an organic lead generation strategist for online courses. And I love the organic part because I feel like, again, there's one of those things that, I feel like we're all doing this organic jig, but we don't really have the strategy to back it up or sometimes even the mindset. So I'm excited to talk to you today to discuss and demystify some of this for the listeners.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I can really relate to the course creator because years ago, when I created my first online course, I I was, so focused on getting that course completed. Like it consumes you, right? You're like so busy and you're working so hard to get this thing done. And so you get it done and you're all excited. And then it's like, oh, but what's next? And it's like, oh, well, now you have to launch it, right? And some course creator courses will teach you the basics of knowing how to go about doing a launch. But the fact is, you need an audience. You need an audience to launch to, right? And if it's your first time, you might not have an audience yet.
Yeah.
And so what happens is you get very down, right? Because you were so excited and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I don't have this audience yet. So I like to educate people on the way that you should be building that audience all along, doing it organically, have that going on an autopilot behind the scenes so that you can continue to create and get it out there in front of people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so important. Everything you said, I experienced myself too. Like just going through you're outlining the course, you're getting all the slides, you're like, oh, this is amazing, you're recording it, and then it's like dun dun dun. Like what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who am I gonna sell this to?
Right.
And so we talked about in the title, this is about teaching them or helping people understand the power of SEO and Pinterest to get their lead generation on autopilot. And I want to dig into all the juicy details of that.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for us to maybe even just define what lead generation is. So can you just share a little bit about what lead generation is from your perspective?
Right. Well, it's basically capturing the interest of your ideal client. Okay. Um, because I like to think of it as, you're not Walmart, right? So you aren't going to just appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
You are, even if you're not super niched, you're still not going to appeal to everybody. You're not like that type of general store, if you will.
Mhm.
So what you lead generation is really kind of just getting in front of getting what you have to offer in front of the potential buyer,
Mhm.
if you will. So it's at the very beginning stage of capturing, getting clients.
Yeah.
And so you want to get them at least in your orbit. You want to get them ideally on your email list. That to me is number one. But it makes more sense to me to use SEO, search engine optimization, right?
Mhm.
To accomplish this as opposed to just going on social media every day.
Mhm.
Because again, that's the general masses, and that is more like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Whereas if you're using SEO, your chances are already increasing that you are fine tuning who's coming into your world and finding you.
Mhm. I can't wait to dig into that because I want to talk a little bit more about that SEO and what you're describing right now. I often say that a lot of the stuff that we do online contributes to the noise. And what we want to do is we want to be the signal. And I feel like what you're sharing right now about SEO positions people to be more of a signal where your message is potent and it's kind of breaking through all the noise
Yeah,
that is kind of existing online. So
yeah.
I want to ask you, I talked earlier about you're an organic lead generation strategist for online coaches, but I also know like your background, like you've been a product developer, you've owned a craft and hobby store, you've done the online coaching thing. So what landed you into this specific space?
Well, couple things. One is I think it happened because I love serving people. I love educating people with a better way of doing things. Okay. I actually enjoy that. And I really want to help people be successful. So it has to be something that I strongly believe in.
Mhm.
And Pinterest, I think what really appealed the most to me is that it's by far the most beautiful search engine. Because again, it's not a social media platform, it's a search engine.
Mhm.
And it's very visual, right? So it's very pretty. And that, of course, appealed to me. But the other thing that really got me is that I'm a really firm believer in repurposing your content. You know, we work so hard on creating good content, and to publish it just once in one location seems so wasteful.
Mhm.
And so I'm all about where else can I share this great information so it reaches as many people as possible.
Yeah. I love that. And I think what fascinated me about speaking with you is that Pinterest was a platform that came, I don't know what year it came out, but it feels like eons ago at this point.
Yeah,
But I remember when it first came on the scene and it was like all the rage, just like any social media platform, any platform like that.
right,
And I kind of dabbled in it. I didn't really kind of jump on the bandwagon at the time. And then it feels like one of those platforms that a lot of people forget about in terms of business, at least.
right.
I do know, like I said, I have friends who love Pinterest. And so, like for me, I forgot about Pinterest. And I
Mhm.
was like, wow, wait a minute, Pinterest. And it's so crazy, Linda, because literally when I Google things, I often land on Pinterest. Like I see like the little graphics and things, and sometimes I'll land on Pinterest to get to the resource. So it
Right.
makes so much sense. So can you talk about a little bit more about the search engine aspect of Pinterest? Because like you say, a lot of times we'll post on things like LinkedIn and Instagram where people can't necessarily search for specific topics. I mean, you use hashtags, but it's not
Right.
really built for finding helpful information.
Right, exactly. Because social media is built just to socialize. And Pinterest, which I think we didn't realize for many years, is a search engine. It is the third largest search engine, so Google being one, YouTube. owned by Google, being number 2, and then Pinterest.
Wow.
And what's interesting with Pinterest is it started out, I think, being more so business wise for bloggers, right? And so bloggers tended to use it a lot, and then the foodies caught on for sure.
Hmm.
And so the food lovers, they were posting things, which it's awesome for that. It's awesome for anything visual, right? But what people don't realize is that it's also awesome for content. And you can make your cover very eye appealing with a stellar headline, which will appeal to your audience. The graphic designers have capitalized on this very well, and they provide so much inspiration, right? Same with the people that do, let's say, knitting and crochet. Like, they'll just show you these beautiful curated yarns, let's say, beautiful colors. Well, it basically is just a starting point for you to click, right? And the service provider, the online service provider, the course creator, they can do that. They can create something graphically beautiful as the cover, which makes somebody want to click further.
Mhm.
And if you're giving them worthwhile information, the whole objective, again, is to get them to click through back to the source,
Yeah.
whether it's your website or your YouTube channel or Instagram or whatever, wherever you want them to go, because
Yeah.
that's how you set it up. But it's very powerful. So the key is also not only visually looking eye appealing, but also the headline.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about what you talked earlier about repurposing and how it would be really simple to do that, especially since people are already creating things and spending time creating graphics for places like Instagram or
Right,
Facebook. It would be really easy to just do that and set that up on
right.
Pinterest and repurpose.
Well, and it's a great testing ground too. So let's say you've got a great, piece of content, and maybe you want to test out a couple different headlines and a couple different graphics.
Yeah.
Well, go and put it out there on Pinterest and see which one does better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
See what is resonating with your ideal client.
Yeah, I love that. So, for somebody whose mind is blown, as mine's was when you started sharing with me this about Pinterest, um, how do we get started? I mean, what are your recommendations on getting started on Pinterest or rebuy? Maybe like because I have a Pinterest profile, but I haven't really done anything with it. So how do you recommend someone wanting to add this to their strategy? How do
Yeah. Well, it all starts with optimizing your account. So create a business account. You want to be sure that you can see all those analytics. Okay, so create a business account. Claim your website on there so it's connected to it, so that it's really obvious to Pinterest that yes, I'm a business, and yes, I have a primary website that I'm going to want people to go to. Okay. Those are the first couple things. And then you're going to want to update your profile description to utilize the keywords that really apply to what you're offering. So, course to cash flow totally makes sense. It explains itself.
Mhm.
Those words definitely need to be in the description.
Okay.
Um, and then from there, it's more of starting to do your keyword search so that you set up the primary keywords for your account.
Okay.
because that's where people are going to find you. So that is really the very beginning. And
Okay.
then from there, start, playing with creating graphics.
Yeah. And would you recommend people maybe follow other accounts that,
Absolutely.
to get inspiration for? Mhm.
Yeah. So, so what my service right now is a full concierge um, called Pin to Win.
Mhm.
And what we do is we basically manage a service provider's account. And so we do all of their Pinterest strategy stuff for them, right? But
Okay.
I'm also creating a Pin to Win Academy that is going to come out at the end of November, where it's more of a self-led course, if you
Mhm.
will, right?
Mhm.
Teaching exactly the entire strategy. But one of the things that's really cool that I'm going to be teaching in that is that we use Tailwind in order to schedule your pins.
Hmm.
But Tailwind is more than just a scheduler. Tailwind works really closely with Pinterest, and they have what are called community tribes. And when you're using a Pinterest strategy, it is really important that you also sign up with Tailwind communities. So these would be complementary businesses to yours,
Mhm.
because they're going to then see your pins every week and they're going to reshare them for you. And so
Mm.
it's like you've got these ambassadors, if you will,
Wow.
working out there for you. So it extends your reach, your overall reach. So you're not just doing all of the Pinterest stuff on your own.
Yeah, so you're getting more bang for your time, like, you're
Right.
able to duplicate what you're doing in a way
Yep.
that I think that I can feel the energy of someone listening to this and feeling them, having that overwhelm come over them, like, "Oh, another thing that I have to create content for." So what would you say to someone who's feeling that? And, I mean, because that
Yeah.
strategy you just shared with me, it seems like it would kind of bring the volume down on that feeling a little bit.
Right. Right. So I what I love to do is repurpose, first of all, everything you already have.
Mm.
So whether you write blog posts or you have some great emails that you can turn into blog posts, okay, and get those on your website, but also your lead magnets. Everybody creates a lead magnet to get the people to opt into their email list. Well, that was like the very first thing when I started this strategy over a year ago for myself. That was the very first content that I turned into pins,
Mm,
because of course I want to get them on my email list, right?
yeah.
And just make sure that you have that right on your the back end on like a hidden page of your website,
Mhm,
so that they're clicking back, because again, that's the way SEO works, is that you pin something on Pinterest, right? And then the person clicks through and they get back to the source, which is somewhere on your website. Now, what's happened just from them doing that, even if they do nothing else, even if they leave right away,
mhm,
right? You have basically gotten a positive wink from Google,
mhm,
because you got somebody to click from Pinterest over to your website. And
mhm.
that improves your Google rankings. And
Okay.
over time, that repeated process over and over, that's how you continually improve your rankings with Google, which means the likelihood of somebody using your keywords in a Google search, the likelihood of your website showing up is greater.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I think the prerequisite for this for people to know is that do your keyword research. make
Yeah,
make sure you know what those keywords are, so that you can use them to actually benefit from this strategy, right? Um,
yeah, yeah. And it's really no different than knowing um, what it is that you offer inside and out, right? And keywords are not as scary as it seems. Literally, just put the thinking cap on, pretend you are a client looking for what it is you have to offer. Think about how they would type that into Google. What words would they use to find you? That's really all you're thinking about.
And isn't it Google makes it so easy too because you can just start typing something and just all these options, fill in the blank options kind of come up so you can kind of use those if you kind of get stuck,
Yeah,
kind of fill in the blank. So I think
yeah.
that's amazing. And I think what really it was just like a mind-blowing moment for me. I don't know why, but when you talked about how it was like the 3rd top search engine,
Yeah.
and, and I think about, like, I use YouTube a lot, I use Google a lot, and like I said, a lot of times, because 'cause I'll search things, and for some reason, my favorite place to go is I'll go to images,
Mhm.
and I'll search for things, and I'll see pins.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Pinterest links that pop up in the
Yeah.
images search. And a lot of times when you click through them, you get on Pinterest and then there's a link to an article or a blog or a video, um, that we
Mhm.
don't know about. It just kind of happens. And that person, like you said, is getting the juice from you clicking through that. So that could be you.
Yeah.
That could
Yeah.
be that could be me.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, when it comes to Pinterest, is there a frequency that you would recommend posting? Like, is how often should you post?
Yeah. That's a very good question. Um, I I would recommend posting or pinning no less than one fresh URL per week.
Mm,
So what that means is, let's say you have one new blog post every week, you know, definitely make sure that you have no less than one. If you are directing them over to your YouTube channel, right, which is I highly recommend, um, definitely one fresh URL that you're pointing them to every week.
okay, so that would be like the direct video,
Yep,
not the necessarily the channel.
right, right. It would be the
Yeah.
actual video. Yep,
Okay, that's doable. I
I
think that's
know.
still doable.
Yeah, and then of course participate, you know, in pinning things and curating boards that your potential client would find interesting,
Mhm.
right? Because again, you want to be always providing value,
Yeah.
and you don't think of it in terms of competition. Where there it's everybody is helping everyone on Pinterest, and that's what I love about it too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, I hadn't even thought about community on Pinterest. That's really fascinating. I'm looking for it because when I met you, I was like, oh, okay, I'm definitely gonna add this to my strategy. But I just, you just don't know these things. And
Right,
I think what we talked about at the top is so important that if you are looking to create a course, create your next course, that you really start implementing the audience building, lead generation strategies now so that when your course comes live, there's not crickets and tumbleweeds. Like, this is a
right.
great way to do that, especially since it's a search engine.
Right. See, and that's what's so beautiful. And the way I like to think of it is that when I'm putting my content into a pin on Pinterest, I have basically made that content evergreen because
Mhm.
I still get like I started on Pinterest when I was back into a product based business, right? And I still get pins and shares from those that are, 10 years old plus.
Wow.
People don't look at a graphic and go, oh, that's old. You know what I
Right.
mean? If they
Right.
like it, they like it.
Right. Yeah. And if the
Yeah,
content is relevant and it's helping them, it doesn't matter how long ago it was posted.
that's
Yeah.
right. So it really makes your content evergreen, and I love that. And not only that, but you can pretty much schedule, say, a month's worth, all up in advance in Tailwind. So things are just running on autopilot for you all the time.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And
That-
it's so less stressful than going out to social media.
Yes. Yes. Because in fact, the people that I know that use Pinterest, it's like their escape. It's like where they go to just kind of like, oh, I like that. And like it's their it's
Yeah.
their me time, their self-care time on Pinterest, where it's like, you can't really do that on Facebook. You, you can't hardly do that on Instagram. LinkedIn
Yeah.
is a whole other
Yeah.
ecosystem. And so I think, and that's why I go on YouTube for me. That's why it's been YouTube for me because it's
Sure.
like, I can just watch things and I don't have to, kind of get caught up in the noise of everything. Mhm.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you for bringing that full circle. I mean, we touched on everything and all the promises in our title for this episode: SEO, Pinterest, and lead generation on autopilot. I wanted to, my final question for you before we get out of here is you talked about repurposing, and I love that so much. And I think we can probably even do a whole conversation on just that. Can you maybe give us a simple repurposing plan, like how to take one piece of content and maybe repurpose it for Pinterest and maybe a few other platforms? Like maybe how would you
Yeah.
do? Mhm.
Yeah. It's funny because we actually provide those services. And one of the ways that I love to tell people that they never realize is a lot of people do a lot of Facebook lives. They have a group, they go live every week in their group. But then that's it. That's all they're doing. Well, what we do and what somebody else can do is you repurpose that video and tailor it, you edit it to go onto your YouTube channel, apply those keywords, make sure you put a link back to your website, right?
Right.
And write a really good keyword rich description. And then you can also pin to it, right?
Yes.
So you're repurposing it now. So you've got it on Facebook, and things on Facebook, once they're seen, they're gone. People don't ever go back.
Yeah.
But when you put it over on two search engines now, it's going to start living forever.
Yes. That's
Very
brilliant.
powerful.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Linda, for sharing that. I mean, this has
Yeah.
been amazing. I've learned so much. I'm so excited because I'm a geek for all of this, and it just really is so helpful. I've learned about Tailwind. I've learned about just some simple ways to repurpose, and so thank you. This has been really helpful.
Good. Good. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, I may have you back again. Just so you
No
know.
problem.
So, tell us what's coming up for you, and also for people who want to maybe learn how maybe they can get in contact with you to use your services. Tell us how
Yeah.
we can kind of get all of that goodness for ourselves.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned before, right now I'm working on my course, which is Pin to Win Academy,
Mhm.
and super excited about it. And it's going to be offered in kind of two different formats. One will be a 3-month program for the serious starter that really wants to dive in and get that pin to win strategy running.
Mhm.
And then the other one is a 6-month program for somebody that, yep, they want to do it, but they need to do it at a little bit slower pace.
Mhm.
But so that's what I'm working on getting out right now. And everything that I do is over on my website, which is basically my name, lindabarutha.com. So if you go there, and I've recently made the decision that I'm going to start. This is like, I've never told anybody this yet.
Yay.
Um, I'm going to start only focusing on one social media platform because it gets too overwhelming trying to be everywhere. And I don't believe that we should be everywhere
Yeah,
unless it's just because of repurposing.
that's right.
Um, so Instagram, which is also my name, Linda Barutha.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that's where
That's
you can
awesome.
connect with me.
That's awesome. All right. And now you have, I don't know when this is happening. I don't know if I should share. You've already dropped an exclusive. So but you have a summit coming up.
Oh, yeah, it's actually going on right now. It is
Okay.
called CEOs Don't Do That.
Yes.
And it is basically behind the scenes look at the 6+ figure online coaching businesses and what they do and don't do. And I really always believe in learning from others who are maybe steps ahead of you.
Yes.
And that has always helped catapult me in my business,
Mhm.
is when I learn from those people that already have walked that path. And I like to heed their advice, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why we created that online summit.
Mhm. Yes,
Mhm.
and I can't wait for the
And it's going to be turned into a podcast. Yes.
yay.
Yep. Yep. And
I
it's the
love it.
same name. CEOs Don't Do That. And I can't wait to have you on as a guest.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah. Yeah. So probably like by the end of November, probably around the same time that um, my course comes out. So yeah, yeah,
Perfect.
got a lot going on right now.
Perfect. Well, there's no other way to do it, is there?
No, when you love what you do, you just keep doing
You
more.
just do it, yes. Thank you so much, Linda. Again, this has been so fascinating and so helpful. And I think the listeners are going to enjoy this. So
Yeah, thanks for having me.
you're welcome. And so, for those of you who want to check out Linda's summit and every good thing that she has going on, follow her on Instagram and at her website, lindabarutha.com. And we'll make sure that, of course, we'll have all the links to her information in our description wherever you're watching or listening to this. And as always, I wish you an abundance of success, joy, and freedom. I'll see you next time. And until then, stay the course and enjoy the journey.